good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's February's Astronomical Society of Penang AstroChat. And if you haven't noticed, today I have a packed room with, a very raised IQ. Okay, I have two distinguished astronomers from Malaysia. One is Dr. Yuan-Sen, and he's at ANU, Australia National University, and there's also Dr. For Bi-Qing, okay, at Western Australia. Was it you're in Western Australia? Okay, so she's a astronomer. Professional astronomer in working in Australia, and so we are very honored and thankful for the two Malaysian astronomers to join us this evening. Okay, and we would like to learn more about astronomers from Malaysia. For me, I myself actually wish to be an astronomer, and we do in the Astronomical Society of Penang. We actually have our own Dr. John Soo, who's from USM. He's a professional astronomer as well, but scattered throughout the world. As I just realized recently, there are a lot of Malaysian astronomers, and we are very honored to have Dr. Ting and Dr. For join us tonight to share their experiences. So thank you very much for joining us. I'll do the clapping. There's no audience clapping, so I'll do the clapping. And I appreciate it because for Dr. Ting, I know it's 11:30 p.m. where you're at, right, in Canberra, Australia, and Dr. Bi-Qing maybe a bit more comfortable, same as Malaysia time, right? Yes. So okay. So I think that let us start with the beginning. Okay. Maybe I'll ask Dr. Bi-Qing first, right? Can you share with us, like, how did you get into your interest in astronomy, and kind of what inspired you to become an astronomer?
Yeah, well, I think it started from the beginning. So I started getting into astronomy from a very young age, actually. So it was basically sparked by the event that happened back in 1994. So when we have, since the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 that was crashing to Jupiter back then. It was always on the news every day, and it seems to be very fascinated to me of why the comet will broke apart and crash into the Jupiter. So I followed that story for quite some time, and it got me interested of how that happened and what we want to know more about astronomy, etc. So that kind of sparked my interest, and at the same time, Malaysia started to publish Astronomical, not journal, the magazine, and there was this in Chinese, and then there was also at the same time that I got to start to read something about it, and then it's kind of just flow into the interest later on. So that's just the beginning of it. Yep.
That's interesting. And you were in in the high school, right? That time for it's like your interest kind of developed when you were in the primary school or high school,
yeah.
Even before the Shoemaker-Levy, or maybe after?
No, it's actually after that event. Actually, I get excited about it, and then knowing that I have to study physics for it, and I got interested. And then at the third year of high school, that we get to learn all the science and physics. So in the first 3 years of high school. Yeah.
Right.
And then,
Interesting. So interesting, an event happening on another planet can spark some intellectual inspiration on Earth. Yeah. Can you? Was there some kind of activity that was it Starfinder back then? Was it
Yeah, I think it's Starfinder or Star Hunter. I think that was
yeah,
the
cannot remember.
name of the society. Yep. And they do have some stargazing event happening in Malaysia, and I went to a couple of them. And then when I was at high school, or the last 3 years of high school, we have a science society club.
Uh-huh.
And within the club, we also have astronomy group that they did like stargazing and so on, as well as some lecture on astronomy.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that back then they were a very influential group, and I think they inspired quite a lot of astronomers. Yeah, including myself too. I think there's some. But what about Yuan Sen? Like, were you also inspired by this similar group, or did you have a different path into astronomy?
Yeah, I think my path is quite like different. So like the story that I always told is that I do not know what is a galaxy until the age of like 21 or something. And that is true because so when I was young, I loved math and physics, but I never get the exposure to astronomy because it's Malaysia. Like unless you seek out for that, it's not like will not be fed to you. So I do not know like this is a subject that we can like study. But I love like math and physics, so I went on to uni to do math and physics. But so I tried like different type of like research in physics as an undergraduate. So I changed quite a few times. So I started with like biophysics because I want to become a doctor at one point. And then I jump onto like do like mathematical like physics and string theory. But those like something is always seems like a miss, like because most physics is really you get deeper and deeper. But I don't feel like I am those type of people that like I want to go like too deep on one topic, but I want to like explore like many like topics, like even though I might not know as much as like one person in one topics. So after some time, I was presented to do some project in physics, which is when I asked my advisor, who was a very like famous astronomer like John Soo, like Beijing might know, that I asked him the first question is like, what is a galaxy? And then he was at Oxford and one of these like big professor, and then he was like really shocked, like this like student like come to me and ask me what is a galaxy. But since then, I like the interest started to grow on me because still today, I always find new things that I want to learn from astrophysics because it's really a collection of like different knowledge. So, for example, now I got more into like artificial intelligence and machine learning, and those topics also find their way into helping like astronomy. So whenever I have a new topic that I like to explore, I can pick up those topics, and it's still part of my job, and find that quite attractive.
That's pretty cool. Actually, your thing about knowing what a galaxy at the age of 21 is I think it was my only chance where I can brag that I say, oh, I actually know more than an astrophysicist. And then after after your age 21, then that's gone. So that's actually very interesting. So contrasting the different parts, like you're not really actually started to look much at the stars and everything until 20 after you know what a galaxy was. Did you actually try to find one in the sky or something, or now you don't care?
No, yeah. So I still feel like so there are lots of like different type of astronomer, right?
Yes.
And this is sort of the thing that is attractive to me because there are quite a few people like me who is using astronomy as a way to explore like new ideas, but in a harmless way, right? So if you try to apply like machine learning to Amazon or YouTube, you are changing like people's life. But if you're like applying that to astronomy, like no one get harmed. So it's like, yeah, so that's not like the attraction.
Maybe a few aliens or something, but right, that's very fascinating though, because I think that a lot of people have the prototypical, even myself, I mean, like prototypical mindset that, oh, you start off with looking at the stars, and then galaxies, planets, and comets and everything, a bright comet, and even comet crashing into planets, and then you became an astronomer. But here we have some other perspective, right?
Yeah, it's the ultimate like playground, right? So it's really all the knowledge that we have learned on Earth, like in a way, is try to understand the cosmos, and this is why it's also a field that is like really like diverse, where you can be from any background, right? So like Kevin Koya from Malaysia as well. So he started as an engineer, right? And now he become an astronomer as well. So these are all like different paths that leads to the same goal, to understand the cosmos.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool, actually. So, Bi-Qing, what about you? Like, I mean, like, you did join activities and do some observing and things like that. So, did you like have you said you had a science club and things like that? So, were there people sharing your interests, and can you tell us a little bit more about your pursuit of astronomy pre, actually going on the path to professional?
Well, I guess it's slightly a bit different. I think from the start, because of my interest and a bit of curiosity about all of this, the physics and the planet and so on and so forth. So I was quite, by the time, was quite determined. I want to pursue astronomy after graduate from high school. So that is not exactly like only happen afterward, but it's actually sort of a projection of continuing on that trajectory. So that was also lead me to when to study astronomy major straight away after high school as well.
Wow.
So, yep. So, if you want to know more, I went to undergrad. That was sparking a lot of interest, and I got very, very lucky to have a very inspiring researcher that gave me a lot of opportunity to do observation, got me into research, and that's sort of things a little bit more hands-on what we astronomer is doing in that case, and I found that myself was kind of like it, so that is kind of just move forward to continue on that career path, basically.
So that's actually very interesting. May I ask whether you faced any challenges, like when you are trying to pursue your dream? Like, I mean, for me, I wanted to study astronomy, but it's kind of hard because my parents are they probably wouldn't agree with it. At least that's what I was thinking. So I was like, I'll study engineering first, and I got stuck in it.
Yeah, I think that is always the reality in Malaysia, that pure science is not a very popular subject. So at the time, sure, my parents would be like, oh, don't you want to be a doctor? Don't you want to be a businesswoman? Don't you want to be, something else than astronomer? So challenges, I think back then, even though that was my parents' concern, but they were in principle quite supportive in a way that this is the path you want to take. Sure, they know nothing about astronomy. They would just say, well, we will support you if you want to go study. At the time, I was actually signed up for doing physics only. But then when I get to the US, I basically just did whatever I want. as long as I'm not wasting your money or anything. And
outside parental supervision. Is that true? Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, so.
Yeah, but I was double major at the time, and the challenge part, I think most challenging part at the time is financially, because most of a Malaysian family don't have money to send kids overseas to pursue, a major study in general. So that was the biggest challenge that I had. But I also got very lucky because I went for first year, have my parents' full support. I worked part-time and so on, but I got lucky to get scholarship, which pay the rest of the 3 years of my tuition and a little bit of living expenses as well.
Wow.
So that was, undergrad.
Wow.
So I got 3 years. The last 3 years was being paid completely, even with a little bit of stipend left over from that scholarship. And I worked part-time, and the part-time job was actually a research job. So that was even better. So in a way, just got lucky on that side of things, I would say. No?
Well, lucky and being humble, I think that it takes capability as well, and America is the U.S. is a place where they do pick up talent. So I mean, I was in the States too, so yeah, I know about that. So wow, interesting. So but what about you, Yuan-Sen? Did you face any challenges, like on your path to slowly get to know what a galaxy is and eventually get bitten by the astronomy bug?
Yeah, I think this part is, I feel like I'm very lucky, like Bi-Qing, because I have met quite a lot of good advisor throughout my career, and most of the time they just advise one to another job. So one thing leads to the other. So you start a project somewhere, and then the advisor really like you and feel like you're capable. So he will talk to some of his colleagues from the other school and say, hey, you should spend a summer there and do a research there, and one thing lead to the other. I also have a very supportive parents since young, because I'm always very curious, but my parents is sort of quite opposite. I'm not sure what is the coaching style of from parents in Malaysia, but my parents are quite the opposite, because they will bribe me not to study. They'll say if you stop studying, we'll bring you to eat a roti canai, right? They ask you not to study.
So you are pretty rebellious then, right? No, I will go study.
No, so I think when I was younger, I am quite sort of keep to myself. So I love to just hide in my study room and solve equation and stuff. My parents get slightly worried and say, hey, go to play, and don't study, eat roti canai. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that curiosity is what drove you eventually into astronomy, right?
Yeah, I think the main challenge, I guess, just like the Bi-Qing say, I think it's quite unique to sort of the Malaysian astronomer or Southeast Asia, because we do not have a lot of opportunity to go back, because if we go back, we need to find a way to do our research, which is particularly tough in astronomy. So even though there are some initiatives now, but it's still are slowly growing, because if my friend from Australia or US or China, if they really need to go back home, then they have the option to do that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of true, but there seems to certainly be some sort of renaissance in astronomy in Malaysia right now, right? I think there's a lot of activity going on. So maybe hopefully one day there'll be an opportunity back home or something. So So difficult questions for you guys. So who wants to go first? All right, Jun Sen.
I don't know the question yet.
Jun Sen, that's which direction. So somehow it was correct in my screen orientation. So Jun Sen. All right. So the difficult question. Be honest with all of us. Did you regret your decision to becoming an astronomer? And if no, or yes, or why?
Yeah, I don't think I regret the decision. I think this has two parts of the story. So the first part is that I still enjoy what I do. So as I mentioned, because I start from a different background, I didn't aim to become an astronomer. So astronomy is kind of like a playground for me, and which is still very exciting for me, because today I have two call from colleague out of nowhere. So they just say, oh no, I have some idea to do something about asteroid. I want to bounce that idea with you. So we speak 3 hours, and then before dinner, someone called me and say, hey, I'm looking into plasma physics, and I need to have your insights on that. So it's still an ultimate playground, and on a daily basis, it's very rare you find a job that you are paid to learn. So in a way, and that part is still exciting, right? So, and I don't think there's anything to regret, because let's say I decided that I lose interest in astronomy at one day. I don't feel like I will have no job, because we can talk more about it, just because the skill set that we learn are quite diverse. So it's not like we are cornered into astronomy. So as long as the interest is still there, I am happy to do astronomy. So because so I don't think there's nothing to be regret about.
Wow. So, but I mean, it seems to me for you, it's kind of almost like a way to pursue your intellectual, apply your intellectual prowess, and also pursue your intellectual desires. To answer certain questions and things like that. Right? Wow, that's nice, because I always thought that this kind of positions are for Institute of Advanced Study people in Princeton, like Albert Einstein used to be sitting on. Yeah. So but they are, I think that in today's research, there's also some, pressure to publish and things like that. Is that some kind of concern for you at all?
Yeah, I think you can choose who you want to be. I mean, of course, there are always not institute, or you can align yourself with people whom you want to be. So yes, there is publication pressure, but I don't think it's quite a prevalence, because if you align with the right people, people understand that good science takes time. And this is the part that I think is getting better, in the sense that people really value different type of researcher. If you want to stay mostly to yourself and think about a question, that's fine. If you are more a group player, you want to work on big project together, and that will be fine as well. So it's about finding the right group of colleague that you can work with.
Yeah. So it looks like what you're implying there is you do need social skills as well.
Well, that's a big part. Yeah. So
that's very interesting. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, and writing skill, social skill and writing skill are okay. Yeah. This is the thing that I hope I wish I knew better. Especially the writing skill.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my notes right now. Develop social and writing skills, so that one day I can be like Dr. Ting. Okay, but yeah, that's actually totally fascinating. That this plays an important role. Yeah, but what about you, Bi-Qing? Is there any concerns that you're okay sharing? With regards to this kind of pursuits, like for the benefit of the audience, like when they say, I want to do astronomy, say, hold your horses. Now you're
Well,
social skills. So, okay, sorry, go on.
yeah, I guess the answer to that question also very much depends on everyone's path in the end. There's no one answer that fit everyone. Like at the beginning, like I said, that this has always been my dream, want to become an astronomer, and I went to pursue it, and also got lucky for, in that sense, have a lot of inspiring people to help me out with that. Went on to do my PhD and graduate school. There was no question asked. It's always that I wanted to do. So, like Yuan Sen said, there was probably two parts of the answer generally, and there were a lot of things to consider as you get older at the career stage, certainly. So, never really regret it. If I always tell my student, if this is what you want to do, and you know the caveat for those going down to that path, this is what you want to do now, go ahead. Always. So for me, that is good, no question asked for that. And of course, then now doing work in the field, and for a lot of different things, I also not just do one science, I also do different science at the moment, different subfield as compared to my PhD. But that was for a different reason. It is also something that is new for me, that fulfills some of my curiosity in a different field that I'm learning. So overall, I wouldn't say there's any regret on going down to this path, because this has always been my passion for doing it. And I think a lot of time is we all do it for the passion. It's not because it's an astronomer. It's not because of, yes, not because of the money necessary for a lot of people. And so that is pretty much that I would say.
Yeah, I think add something here.
Oh, go on. Sure, yes.
Yeah, so it just occurred to me the other day that I was like talking to a colleague of mine, and then that we were brainstorming something, and then he told me about a paper that I wrote a few years ago that I don't remember anymore, because sometimes you just get too busy. I'm like, oh, did I write that paper? So so that night I just start to go through some of the paper that I written, and then actually I wrote good paper. So I have the feeling that when you write it, you hate that. After some because you suffer and then you hate your paper, I'm like, oh, I'm so done with that. And after 5 years, you look back, and then I do like my paper a lot. And so this is the point I feel like. So I'm lucky that I have a permanent position. So most likely I will be an astronomer for some time. But if I don't have that, if I stop now, I will still be happy, because I feel like I have already written some of the quite interesting paper. I have solved some of the problem, and it's not about the career, but rather what you have solved along the way. And I have friends that who decided astronomy is not for them at some point, but they have made important contribution to the knowledge field, and then now they move on to something that are more interesting to them. But it's not about the career. It's about the career, but it's not as much as you think.
Okay,
yeah, so I totally agree with Yuan Sen on this part, because it's that when I published a paper back then, you just oh, okay, maybe this is not that exciting or interesting or whatsoever. But looking back, you realize that how much you have done on that, how much discovery you have done and contribute to, astronomy knowledge in general in the scientific field. So I think that's pretty much fulfill that satisfaction of that part of the life, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. That's very interesting, actually. So, we do have a question from the audience, and actually, none other than Michael Teo himself. So, I suspect he wants to be an astronomer. So, is the life of an astronomer different from what you imagined? Maybe Yuan-Sen first this time.
Why am I like always
Yeah,
first?
is the life, are you always first? No, you.
No,
Okay.
okay, yeah. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's
it's very hard for me because I didn't like imagine what an astronomer life was like when I was younger. So I'm not sure like I am the best like person to answer that. But some of the academic life is yes and no. I think like there are lots of parts that are probably as exciting as some of the movie that I like. Like I like A Beautiful Mind, which is very old movie. So
Yes.
like you have sort of the crazy part of you, and you have the intellectual part of you. You literally can go like walk in a park and think about a question. But there are also part that are not true because you need to like do the bureaucratic stuff that they are not shown in the movie. So that is yes and no. But I think the good part is probably like quite accurate. Plus a few like just layman real life like problems.
So you just didn't think that you'd be like looking through a telescope every night, and then sleeping during the day, dressing up like Dracula eventually because you only stay up at night and you.
Yeah, I'm start with but like mostly a theorist, so I don't really do much observation. So that was not what I signed up for. So yeah. Mhm.
Okay. What about you, Bi-Qing? Was it what
Well,
you?
I think when I pursued astronomy, I didn't know what kind of career path that is and what astronomer does in general, other than doing some research and so on and so forth, and doing physics in general. So I guess my supervisor when I was undergrad, as I say, I was actually started doing research very early on when I was like just a freshman student, first year of undergrad. And it kind of gave me a little bit of idea what professional astronomer does. They do what they do. Went out to the observatory, take some data, and do some data analysis and so on and so forth. So that was kind of get me the idea of what astronomers actually do. But in reality, it's also a different path, right? You can be going entire academic, being a professor, or you could be just going down to be a staff astronomer, which is mainly doing support role for observatory, for example, and you spend 80% of doing support stuff for the observatory and 20% time doing research. So that is slightly a different path of going on or for that. I guess Yuan-Sen have a more traditional career path, maybe. I don't know if later he can correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, I would always think the traditional career path is that you finish your PhD and then do one or two postdoc, and then you get a professorship or a permanent job or something like that. But I think that reality is different for me because that actually didn't happen to me. But that was also different because of my choices of being having to stay in one city without able to move around. That sort of restricted the career option a little bit. Otherwise, I would say it's all a little bit different. If you want to become an astronomer, there are different way, a different duty, and see one like the most, I would say.
Okay, that's interesting because it seems like there are pretty limited places where astronomy is done in the world. Is that correct? Yeah, and then also the different kinds of astronomy that are being done at the different places. And okay, our expectation, of course, I think many people expect that astronomers are, yeah, like I mentioned before, sticking the eye in the telescope and then looking. But then I think that you already know since you're starting, it's like, okay, you'll be looking at actually images from telescopes, right? And even not only visual, right? You get astronomical signals from in the radio frequency. Is that right? So there's a lot more to being an astronomer than what many people imagine, right? And yeah, and I think that from Yuan-Sen's experience too. So Bi-Qing, would you be willing to kind of share like either or both, like your favorite research project that you worked on, and or your current what are you working on right now?
Oh, that is
Top
a
secret, that's okay.
very, not a top secret, but it's quite a broad topic, because I started out as an optical stellar astronomer. So back in undergrad, I was just looking for one type of star and doing photometry, getting a light curve. And then later on, I went on doing chemical abundances of stars for my PhD.
Okay.
And at that point,
can I pause you for a moment then? You say optical stellar observer. So you it's kind of like you use visual data from the stars, right?
Right. Well, I'm using the optical telescope that amateur astronomers have, and then they use a CCD to take the images, and then using the imaging, yes, and then that is what we call the data.
Right, and you measure like the how the brightness of the star changes.
That's right. Changes and stuff. Yep. So at the time, it was this kind of discovery going on, because we never thought of that type of particular star that we study is going to change the brightness. So, and we discovered, well, not me discovered it, but my supervisor at the time discovered actually changing the brightness. So it's become a new class of variable star.
Wow. Okay.
So that was what I started out with. And then I went on to study chemistry, basically the composition of the star using
basically
spectroscopy. Yep.
How do you make a star? Like the ingredients you need to make a star, right? Mixing a little bit of flour and sugar and hydrogen and helium, maybe, or something. Okay, but also like at the different ages, is it like as the star ages, they have different different inside? Yeah. Can you explain a bit why? It's like so some of the audience may be able to understand a bit more.
So we were trying to find some of these stars, whether they are produce different elements, and then it's a little bit of learning about the life cycle of star. So the first generation of star, then at the end of their lifetime, some of them become supernova. So they expel all the go kaboom, and then all their atmosphere, the elements of the chemical elements are being ejected to the environment, and then those environment, the gas within later on will form the next generation of star. So we then you study the composition of the next generation of star. So we sort of able to trace a bit of a history of that, and then if we look at it on the Milky Way, we learn a little bit more about the structure of the Milky Way and so on.
I see. So there's some difference, right, between the first generation and the second generation.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and even like maybe how many generations are we at now?
Usually we only talk about two
Sorry.
sort of two generation, matter rich and matter poor, meaning the more matter and less matter in general. But then you also talk about different structure of the Milky Way, outer part of inner part, and so on and so forth. And that was basically what I've done for my PhD. But then life changed, and as soon as I finished my PhD, and I came to Australia to join in doing radio astronomy. And literally, I feel like I was doing a second PhD at the time, because we're learning everything new. But it was mainly working on radio astronomy, in studying galaxy formation, and then learning about the hydrogen gas and so on, because that is what the radio telescope probe the wavelength. So it's very diverse, I would say. If you say most interesting research, I think every part of it have an exciting part of it. Like the first part is the discovery of a new class of pulsating star, and the second part that we learn more about a particular type of star on the HR diagram, learn more about it because not astronomers have learned about them. And then now we are now talking about, get very excited about what's so-called the dark galaxy. Basically, it's a galaxy without much light in it.
Is it made of dark matter or something? Or?
Yes, dark matter dominated, but they are very rare. But I think maybe we're getting there. Maybe we found something, and we now that we have new radio telescope and come online, that's something to learn and discover and so on.
That's interesting. You shared with me a photo before. Hold on a second.
Yeah, that is just a 3-color composite image.
Is that let me find it really quickly. I kind of lost it. But I found it again. Okay. Don't mind if I share it really quickly. And so
sure.
Is this kind of is this hold on a second. Let me maybe I'll share a window. Okay, so okay, there we go. ASP. I have to click share, and I don't know whether you can see this. Can you see this? Was it the NGC 1367 composite Wallaby Hawaii?
Yeah, you have to click on the PDF, isn't it? Because at the moment I only see your screen.
I see what's happening. Hold on a second. I have to reshare. I click on the PDF. Okay. Yep. Here we go. Share. All right. Now, is that visible?
Yep. So yeah, it's just a 3-color composite image that we used for public outreach recently, I would say. So the bottom 3-color channels are red color, green color, and the blue color one are from different wavelength. So you got the red color one, which is traces a little bit of mostly the red population, and then the blue color, it's a B, but I put it as a green color, it's a fourth color. And the last one, the galaxy,
right.
Yeah, it's a fourth color. So the last one, the NUV near UV color, you can see a lot of structure of the galaxy, those mainly tracing the star formation of the galaxy. So if you go on top of that blue color NUV one on top, yep, this one. So you can see that how much structure it actually get with all those spiral arm of the galaxy, with all the star formation region, if you just only look at the red color. So this is composite. But if you combine the one on the pink color, each one is basically the H1 gas, which is the neutral hydrogen that you detect in the radio wavelength. As you can see, that it is a lot larger extended structure for the galaxy.
Compared to the blue.
Yeah, compared to the blue one.
Compared to the near UV, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can see that how much the galaxy actually extended when you trace out the gas population, and you can trace out the spiral arm and consistent with the star forming region. So you need the gas to form the star. So that's pretty much a simple way of explaining composite image for general people.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you look at the galaxy in the different color light and you see different things. So I think that's kind of like always say it's like more than meets the eye, right? Yuan-Sen, any comments on that?
Yeah, so that is like beyond my expertise. I'm not observed.
You're being very humble. I kind of feel.
Yeah, but of course, like like something that I don't do like myself, because it's it's a different regime of astronomy.
Okay. So wow. So actually, the fields are actually pretty narrow, right? So okay. So thank you, Bi-Qing. Your turn, Yuan-Sen. Like, can you share about your projects that you like, or or you enjoy, or something? Like, just kind of for the audience to get a feel, like a taste of what's going on.
Yeah, I think one project that I think like quite stuck in my mind, which is sort of the paper that I mentioned just now, when my colleague told me, "Oh, no, that paper is great. Like your paper, like that, like." And that is actually a very nice sort of like compact project that not usually things don't go so cleanly, but that one is particularly clean. So what happened then is that that was 2018, and for people might know, that is the first big data release of Gaia. So Gaia is a European mission that measure the position and velocity of a billion star. So they just have this big dump. I think it's 2018 or 2017. And then I was taking a summer break in Germany. So I was at Princeton then, but then I decided to spend a summer in Germany, which is great when, especially like when people pay for it. So I go there to Max Planck, and then I was like talking to the director there, and then he asked me, "Hey, like what do you want to do with the Gaia like data?" And I say, "I don't know. Like, do you have like any like perennial question that you want to solve that I can try to tackle?" And then he said, "Oh, like have you looked into what they call vertical like heating?" And so the question then was, I can share a screen, my entire screen.
Sure.
Let me see. Do you see my screen?
Yes. I mean, something's coming out. All right. Yeah. Here we go.
Right.
How
So
do you gain their vertical structures? Yes.
Yeah, so the question then is that if you look at the Milky Way, like the Milky Way always have a finite like thickness, which is a bit peculiar. Because we know that the star actually form close to the disk, and somehow the star get heated and form a finite like thickness. So the diagram here is that the star get more and more like oscillatory like over time. I will stop sharing for now because I want to focus on the.
So mainly, you say that the galaxy is supposed to be like a roti canai.
The gas is a roti canai.
Like
it's roti tissue, and then become like
a thick pancake.
Roti telur, and then you're like, and then you're like, what is going on, right? So, like people have thought about that, like what could be like going on since the 1960s. So there's a very like famous paper from Lyman Spitzer in 1967. So he was at Princeton. Then, of course, we thought it's the right time to solve this question, like just because, like for the first time, we have so much data, and it might be a way to like settle the debate. So there are like two camps, and so for the 3 months, I just like most of the time I just sit in one coffee shop to the other, like literally just read up paper what people have been doing, and I've been thinking about that for 2 months, and then like somehow after 2 months I have an idea how to reconcile all this like information. So I code up something and then show my colleague and say, well, I think I have a way to reconcile all these like contradictory facts. And I put them together and I talk to some colleague and say like, am I crazy? Like, do you think it's correct? And then after some poking like around for a month and two, and then the paper is done. Like it's still a paper that I'm pretty fond of because I literally know nothing about the topics before that summer, and it's because of one question. But and then I've been like thinking through that question like end to end, and then since I write the paper, I never care about like vertical like heating anymore. So that's one paper that I still think my theory is the correct one. Of course, after that, like people still write paper and say, hey, yeah.
Can you explain your theory a little bit then? Like,
so
how did you?
Yeah, so there are
sort of
two theory then. So one is that it's just a secular like evolution, meaning that the Milky Way like itself have quite a lot of east, and then the east like itself will blow up the roti to like.
Oh, so you're just like a roti.
Yeah, but that was a bit like constraining because like people do not believe that is enough. And you probably need some external like merger. It's like your roti people beat up the roti to make it like. So the main people say is that like, but the strange thing is that we do not have many beating because from like, the other fact we know that like the Milky Way has been quite lucky, or like we have not been like beaten up by too much. So these two facts seem to be like contradictory, and that paper essentially show a way to reconcile these two facts, meaning that you do not need the beating to get to like such a height. And you can use that to so that's pretty nice. So so I like that paper a lot. So that's the project that I finished that I'm pretty proud of. I can talk about like a project that I literally start maybe like 2 weeks ago. So because my research now also move on to more about like artificial intelligence and what we can do about that.
Very much like to learn about that.
Yeah, so this come down to like 2-3 weeks ago. A student like come to my office and say, hey, I want to like project with you. And I say like, what do you know? Do you see my screen?
Yes, I see your screen.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
So I asked him like, what do you have? Like, what have you done for the other project? He said, I have been doing like object detection with artificial intelligence. Like if you know what is object detection, meaning that like if you have a CCTV, you can track like people and trace like people and try to like follow like people, right? So and then I thought it would be fun to see if we can trace the movement of gas through a simulation, understanding the movement of gas. So I can show you some of the video here. So it's exactly the artificial intelligence that like people use now in like CCTV to track like human being or like auto driving cars. And we have some idea what this can be done to do astronomy. And
you're saying this is auto driving gas or?
No, so here it's just like tracking the movement of the gas.
Right. So you kind of like program.
Right. Yeah, I can show you another video, which is more like slowly. So you try to figure out which gas is like collapsing and like automatically like detect gas that are collapsing, and try to figure out.
Right.
Yeah. So this type of like research is what I like. As I mentioned, like no one get harmed. Like there's no like ethical like issue about like using this, but it is intellectually quite fulfilling because we are still using the latest technique in artificial intelligence where we do not need to debate about the ethical stuff. It's just like tracing gas. No one get harmed.
Well, for that gas thing, you're just kind of like using artificial intelligence to identify in the photo the direction the gases are moving and stuff.
Or which like gases is collapsing. So the goal is that you try to figure out if I can figure out what is the outcome of the gas.
Oh, so you say like even collapsing, could it be forming a star? Is that
right?
something like
So
that? Star
I try
formation
to
and stuff like that.
distinguish the two.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So all the best with that. Yes. So I think that these are all like very, very fascinating things that I think what I would say is like a lot of lay people would not like think about, like when you say astronomer, so and so I think that what you are really pointing out is that astronomy is actually a much larger field than what a lot of us imagine it to be. And is that a correct statement?
Yeah, and it's also like very profitable, to be honest, because we know how to deal with like data, and this is
Right.
we are extremely good like coder or astronomer. You can trust them to code like anything basically. And for countries who know this fact, we are often the target for people to do startup or Wall Street or like data science.
Right. So the newest leading edge technology in data science, data analytics, and
Yeah,
even AI, right? That's
but even in general, like even people who do not work on AI, we all know how to code well.
general programming.
Or at least I hope.
Coding.
Some people are bad coder, but
Teaching the
Yeah.
do you agree with
I
that?
think we code a lot. We
Code a
do a
lot.
lot of coding, but professional coding, I think that is slightly different. It's different than if you have to go into industry. There could be a little bit of a learning curve there, but we astronomer, we adapt things and learn things really quick. So that is, in general, is not an issue. We have all the skill that we already have. And I think data science is one of the big things. If you don't want to do astronomy, that's most of the people when ended up doing, actually. Yeah. So yeah, and then one point I should add with what Yuan Sen is saying, I think it's also very important is that communication. I got so many ideas, totally just through talking to people and so on and so forth at conference, and especially conference and seminar and so on. Not particularly now because of COVID, no one's going anywhere. But in the past, it's always sparking new ideas every time you go and talk to people. So I think it's a very good skill to have in general.
yeah, and asking the right like question, because I think like one of the things that I sort of like someone say that and then it stuck in my mind. So like before PhD, you learn how to solve a question, and after PhD, you learn how to ask a question. And that is sort of the key thing that is important, because all is about asking the right question. Once you have the skill, it's all about understanding what question is worth asking and what is like solvable. And those skills are quite like valuable in real life as well, because you get the data intuition and you can ask the right like question.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So actually, what you're saying is you're all actually not astronomers. You're just computer programmers.
Kind of a lot of time.
So don't study astronomy. Study computer science.
I think,
but
you want more than that. Yeah.
You want more than that, right? Because I think that computer science is more like about the computer science thing, like the science of programming, how to write the program, the nature of the program. But astronomy itself is like applying it and using creative techniques to kind of solve the problems. Is that a generally correct statement?
Yes, I would say so, because I only write program to solve my problem. I don't code it just for coding it. So it's a different thing. Yeah.
Right. So technically, it's like a computer program is, like your kung fu, and then you're fighting the the astronomy questions. So it's more like a tool rather than the actual thing that you actually study. And of course, with in-depth knowledge, it gives you more power to solve your problems, right? But it's like computer programming skills are absolutely necessary to be an astronomer. Well, what do you all think?
I think
it's basic.
There's basic, but there's also like there are different tier, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
for different subset, again, astronomy is so big that it's hard to like generalize. There are people that it's very hard to know zero coding. So I think it would be really hard. So like when you build instrument, you need to know how to code. But there are different tier of coding, right? So there are the observer coding, which is poor coding, but you can get by. You can analyze the data. There are people that do like hydro simulation, like the simulation that I show you. So I do the analysis part and try to track things, but the simulation is done by someone else. Those are pretty hardcore like coding. So you need to figure out how to do trace like plasma and try to code that. So that are pretty high. So there are different tier of coding. You need some for sure, and but I don't think you need to really learn too much. I guess you learn by doing like projects because yeah, when I was undergrad, I learned Java. I never used Java in my whole life, and you need to know the basic. So once you know, like it's like kung fu, right? And then if you know the base, you cannot jump into the ring like without the kung fu. But if you have some basic, you can just jump into the ring and by practicing, and then at some point you just become the master and become like part of you.
Okay, understand. That's very interesting. So maybe what we'll do is we'll start to slowly wind down this interview. Okay, so maybe like all right, since Yuan-Sen's complaining he goes first all the time. Bi-Qing, any advice for today's potential young astronomers, like if they want to pursue, what should they do? Especially I think one I didn't mention this before in at least not yet, but there are very few, am I right to say there are very few female astronomers or lady astronomers, and so are there any advice you can give for someone who might be interested but like face certain pressures, due to social issues, or is this or maybe I'm still living in the last century, and the social issues are gone, things like that. Any advice?
Yeah, I think in Malaysia it's quite different culture than the Western world. I wouldn't say less female in the Western world in general. At the time I was doing my PhD, we pretty much had half and half.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a half and half, but I also went to a pretty big PhD program back then. For Malaysia, it's very different. In general, no one even think about doing astronomy. But I think it's probably challenges and so on. They're always there, but for me, I don't think that was such a big hurdle just yet in general. So, but everyone has a different experience, of course. If I would say earlier already, if this is what you want to do, you're passionate about, there's always a way to go for it. And the most important thing is to have people who are supporting you going into doing your undergrad. If that is what you want to do, you do it. If you don't like it later on, that is perfectly fine. You can go on to do something else. So that is my advice to the high school student or young people who want to do astronomy. And of course, if they have curious about what program might suit them and so on and so forth, feel free to give me a shout. Pretty much.
Right. We will share Yuan-Sen and Bi-Qing's contact email contacts in the chat section below. So do look for it in case any of the audience might be interested. But Yuan Sen, what about you? What might your advice be for?
Yeah, I think like particular for like Malaysian student, because it's very different. I think like sometimes when I talk to my colleague, they don't understand the challenges that we faces, which is like we need to pry for opportunity to do science. We need to like really work hard to find a little sliver of hope to do science, and just don't feel bad. You need to be thick-skinned. Like when I first find my project, I sent out like 250 emails to all professors in the world and say, hey, like I am good. This is what I know how to do, and I want a project. Only 2 reply, like out of that full list of email. Of course, like once I get the opportunity, then one leads to the other. So that is different, right? Because you're coming from Malaysia, and this is the part that we all hope to change, because so I seldom say no to Malaysian students like at ANU, so when they come for me for a project, I would try to find a project for them because it's just hard.
Wow.
Also, the other thing I always say is like, don't worry like about job prospect. like if you study astronomy and if you not become astronomer, you probably are making like a lot more money than I am. The likelihood is, all my friends are making like way more than I am. Yeah. So, but also like don't treat that as a career. So the point is that you can stop at any point. So I think I talk about people stop at any point, but you can also start at any point. I have I know someone then, like he was at New South Wales. I think he was a pilot for like 25 years. And then he decided, I'm done with pilot, so I want to study astronomy. And then he's do like PhD in astronomy. I also have someone that worked with me a little bit. So he started as like electrician, and then do that for 30 years, and like when he wrote to me, it's like, oh hi, like Professor Ting, I am a mature age student. And I say, what do you mean by mature age student? I'm like, I'm very old. No, he's not very old. He's like, like I've been in the job force like for 30 years, but I want to learn about that.
Wow.
One of the best like student that I have worked with, like very diligent and like really want to. So you can stop at any point, you can start at any point, because this job is meant to be to fulfill your curiosity, and the upside is that it's not time loss. I think the skill that you learn, like if you do something that are not as transferable to industry, I will try to not push too hard, because like that is your life. I do not want to like push you in the wrong direction. But in general, like astronomy is the skill are very like transferable. There is a hurdle in Malaysia, which is like Malaysian don't see astronomer as an extremely good coder. I'm like, hey, I am better coder than most of the people that you can hire from computer science. And like as long as we can get the words out, then it will become more less hostile, because like I think then the parents will say, oh, like doing astronomy, like studying like astronomy is better than like studying in business school, which is true. Right. Because you learn coding. Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, like it's like scientific programming, right? And you do apply your science to programming, but it still has that key component of programming, and programming has like a certain way of thinking, and you still develop it. So no matter what, you're still fresh for the actual commercial industry, no matter what happens.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, but I mean, because this would lead into both of you are in the academic committee or academic council for the International Olympiad on Astronomy and Astrophysics for last year and this year, right? MOAA. So and also the Astronomical Society of Penang has the IAO MAO and IAO. So these are Olympiads where the students actually compete worldwide to kind of like test out their skills in astronomy. So I'd assume that you all would encourage students to participate too, right?
Yeah, just don't treat that as a competition. Like I joined like a lot of competition in high school that it really does not help much, to be honest. Like winning or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That-
it's
that's
all
interesting.
about like learning the topics, right? So yeah, and the skill that to win a medal is also quite precise. So you learn something that will get you the medal, which is good, meaning that you actually, it's not like you shouldn't get the medal because it show that you have the ability to learn, but it's the ability to learn, but then the competition. I think
Right.
because like I don't think like anything that I have learned in high school is particularly like useful. But what is like useful is it teaches us how to learn, and the same thing in college as well. So like people might ask, why do you even go to college if like most of the courses that you learn, like you will never use that. So I think it's just practicing to learn new stuff, right? So, and that is, it's always important, and you should always do well in your study because you show that whatever topic throw at you, you can pick that up quickly.
Yes, and I think that that would be probably the best takeaway from all these Olympiads and competitions, I assume. Yeah. Okay. So I think that are there any like parting words, like final comments, don't do this, or do it, sort of thing, for the general audience, or I mean, like, I think you had a very fascinating advice there, Yuan-Sen, like you're never too old to start astronomy. So I'm hearing that as kind of like an invitation for myself, so but I don't know. Okay, we'll see. I'll be in touch if I decide. But yeah, anyways, any parting words, like or anything you like to add finally to
Not sure.
nothing else? Okay, everything that must be said is said. Okay, so I think that we have to thank you all once again. Okay, Dr. Ting, Yuan-Sen, and Dr. For Bi-Qing for joining us in our AstroChat for this very informative session. And I hope that our audience can be able to pick up some useful information and insights into being an astronomer. Okay, and whether you should pursue. I hope that Dr. Ting and Dr. For can give you some ideas. Okay, so thank you again for tuning in to our AstroChat, and we'll see you all again next month. Have a good evening. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep. So